It's the summer of 2016 and I'm in Italy, in Rome, in the heart of Rome, right across from the Trevi Fountain. Has anybody been to Italy before? Then you know what I'm absolutely talking about. It's a mesmerising experience. And I'm standing there and looking at my dream. I've had this on my bucket list forever and I'm finally here. I throw in my coin and then another one to absolutely make sure I'm going to get myself back here again. And grab my gelati and I'm sitting on the steps just savouring that moment. And as I'm there just soaking it all in, this young woman comes and sits next to me, except the way that she sits, she's literally sitting shoulder to shoulder. And I'm like, that's weird. Why is she so in my personal space when there's all of this room on either side? But I'm in Rome and I drift off. I don't think too much about it. Soon after, a police officer arrives and grabs this young woman by the arm. Turns out she's a pickpocketer and I was about to be her next target. Here I am going, la-di-da, I'm in Italy. And she's trying to get into my bag. When someone gets into our personal space like that, they've come into our boundary. And as human beings, we are born into boundaries. Starts with the protective boundary of being in our mother's womb, and then we come into the boundary of being in our parents' arms, and then we go down to explore the inside and external world under the close boundary of supervision. Do that, don't touch that, don't climb on that, you shouldn't be eating the dirt. Right, you get the idea. And then eventually what happens is we begin to articulate our boundaries through using the word no. And when we first start doing this, we're really good. We are really good at letting everybody else know what we want and what we don't want. And the adults in our world give this period a special name. They call it the terrible twos. Right, we've all been there. As we grow up and we hit our teens, what happens is we become focused on fitting in belonging, in impressing others. And what can sometimes happen is we turn down the volume of our no because we start fearing being rejected, about being left out. We start getting uncomfortable, we get embarrassed and we don't want to say no because it might be the wrong thing and they might think something differently of us. And as we move into adulthood, we start getting intimidated. Sometimes we feel anxious, scared about what other people are going to think when we say no. We start worrying about, are we going to disappoint when we say no? Or are we going to hurt someone else's feelings when we say no? And so what happens is we turn down the volume of our no even more until sometimes it becomes inaudible even to us. And then in our late 30s, maybe early 40s, if we've been burnt enough times, we find our no again, except this time it's coming from a place of resentment. When we think of boundaries, the very first thing that often comes to mind is that they protect us. They create a space where we feel safe, secure, certain. They keep the good in and they keep the bad out. They let other people know what is and isn't acceptable behaviour. And they also put a limit on our own behaviour as well. And as long as we're coming into this conversation from a place of boundaries, where it's about fear, it can get problematic because we're moving into a fear of what we don't want other people to do to us, the things that we worry about other people saying to us. We fear being judged, we fear being hurt, we fear that someone is going to transgress our boundaries and get into spaces that we don't want them to be in. And as long as the conversation is one about fear, then we can't truly heal because when the focus is fear, it keeps our wounds open. And so what if we were to move beyond the traditional approaches to boundaries and it became a conversation about using boundaries to create what we want rather than to try and run away from what we don't want? What if boundaries were the essential ingredients for our self-love and our self-care? And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. How can we use boundaries to create a space where we feel nurtured, and we can also step into a space where we have the confidence to speak our truths? So let's start from the beginning. I was born in Australia to a family of Turkish migrants. My grandmother was very much the matriarch of the family. Not like the Godfather, but close. First grandchild, so absolutely dotted on. And I was brought up in what I refer to as being the eyebrow parenting method. I'm pretty sure most of you have not heard of that one before. So whenever I did something that my grandmother disapproved of, or she just wanted me to stop whatever it was that I was doing, she would take out her most powerful weapon and she would raise her eyebrows like this. And I knew in that moment, without necessarily even understanding what I was doing to warrant that disapproval, that I needed to drop everything that I was doing and just retreat. You're in the danger zone. The eyebrows have lost their superpower these days. Try pulling that off onto a kid these days and they're going to go, what's wrong with your eyebrows? Right? So sometimes I was doing the wrong thing. Sometimes I was saying the wrong thing, and it just became easier to listen rather than speak my truth. I became so focused on pleasing others that I forgot who I was in the process, because I was being whoever I needed to be in that moment to keep other people happy. I was attracting people into my life that were takers because I had learnt to give at the cost of myself, and I was saying yes even when I didn't mean it. And saying no became this excruciatingly painful experience that really became a breeding ground for burnout. Has anybody been there before? Yeah. Yeah. It's stressful, it's exhausting, it's depleting, and you're running on empty. You know what that's like? It's like getting into a car, you turn on the engine and you notice that you're about to run out of fuel. The red light on the petrol tank meter is going off. And so what do you do at that point? What do? You ignore it. I mean, we've all done that at some point, haven't we? And you're like, oh, come on, just a little bit more. I know we can do it. And you sort of wishfully will it to cough up another 80 Ks for you. Why do we do that? Why do we even wait for the petrol tank to flash red before we refuel? I don't know. That's an important one to think about. And so at this point, I realised that I really needed to take responsibility for my well-being, because when we don't, our body takes over and starts creating the boundaries that we don't with our words. At first, our body is sending quite subtle messages going, hello, over here, you need to pay attention, something is not where it needs to be. It can be something like a headache or backache, or you've been worried about something and you're losing sleep over something. And your body is going, come on, pay attention. This is not where it needs to be right now. And as human beings, we are really good at being so busy that we miss these symptoms, these signs, and we push it away and we go, you know what, that's nothing. It's okay, no, not a problem. And sometimes we don't even notice them. And then your body goes, nah, shouldn't get the message. And so it escalates. It comes back to you with a degree of intensity that forces you and wills you to pay attention. This time it's maybe severe muscle cramps, or it could be fatigue or a low immune system that sees you being unwell with the flu for a couple of weeks. Your body is willing you to change the detrimental situation that is creating this sort of symptom. And again, we push it aside, we explain it away, we ignore it. And then your body goes, in one last attempt, bang. It creates a life-altering situation in the form of an illness, disease, or injury that forces you to stop and pay attention. Most of us, at this point, will, and some people still try and move ahead. Now, I learnt this lesson the hard way. One time I pushed myself so hard, I had this cocktail of laryngitis, pharyngitis, conjunctivitis and sinusitis. Wasn't pretty. I had to take at least a month off work to recover. And on another occasion, I thought it would be a good idea to paint the house. I'm a part-time artist and I thought, what is a house if not a large canvas? How hard can it be? How hard can it be? And in retrospect, I can't believe how naive I was. This small project blew out into a full season of renovation rescue that saw me touching every aspect of the house where I probably needed to be rescued within the first 3 days. It lasted 3 months. And soon after I finished, I ended up in hospital with severe pneumonia. I survived that one, clearly. I realised through these experiences that I alone am responsible for my well-being. And saying no to requests of my time and energy for things that I don't want to be doing is exactly what I need to do to love, respect and honour my body and my being. So I learnt to listen to my body, to tune into what it was trying to tell me. You're too tired, you need to take a break. Stop pushing yourself so hard, this is too much. Cut down, slow down, rest. I realised I needed to prioritise my self-care, to relax and to ground myself, to develop hobbies that allowed my mind to unwind, to engage with the things that I love on a daily basis, not just waiting for the yearly or 6-monthly holiday to come around. And most importantly, I realised that I needed to pull back from my giving so I could create a space where I was the one that was receiving. So when I found my voice and I started saying no, my grandmother congratulated me for how courageous I was. Just kidding. She did nothing of the sort. She did what anybody else in this situation would do. She got angry with me. She got upset. She pressured me. She stopped talking to me, which I must say had its advantages. And my favourite one of all, she said, if you loved me, then you would do it. Yeah, she brought love into it. And it was my sheer persistence, patience and perseverance that allowed me to stand my ground and come to it from a space of understanding and compassion. One of the most important things we need to understand is that when we stand up for ourselves and reclaim our boundaries, we start articulating them, implementing them, maintaining them, other people need time to adjust to them, because what we're doing is we're changing the rules of the game. Can you imagine, like AFL, there's a set of rules and someone comes in overnight and they're like, nah, that's not the way we're doing things anymore. And you hit the field and all of a sudden it's different, right? Can you imagine? That's going to take everyone time to adjust to. And the people who are going to react the most in situations like this are the people who are going to be affected the most. They're going to come into it and go, what the hell? This is not the way things are done. What do you mean? No, what? Right? It takes time. And patience is the key to allow that space to unfold for both ends. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the word yes rolls off our tongue? And inside we're like, no, why? You don't have the time and energy to deliver on that, take that back. And sometimes we say yes, when really inside you know that that's the exact opportunity that you should be going for and taking up. So self-love is about owning our yeses and our nos. And that is what allows the consistency for other people to start respecting our boundaries. One day, I remember sitting down at family breakfast with my grandmother and my mum, and we were deep in conversation, and something that they said prompted me to run to my room and get this prompt that I use when I'm teaching boundaries. And I said, guys, the problems you're talking to me are all about too much of the yes and not enough of the no. I said, someone's coming up to you and going, can you do this for me right now? Drop everything, and this is what you're doing.
100% yes!
Someone is coming to you and going, can you go above and beyond your means to do this for me right now?
Yes!
I need help!
Yes!
And they're laughing, right? Because they know it's the truth. And I say, guys, the solution is you need more of this. And I'm pressing the no button. It's not working, right? And I had just changed the battery a few days ago. By this stage, they're both in hysterics because they realise that the prompts are reflecting reality. So boundaries are a skill. And I'm not saying that they're easy. What I'm saying is that they're necessary for a life of health, well-being and happiness. And just like any other skill, with practice, it gets easier. When we say no to others, what we're really doing is saying yes to ourselves. It's not selfish, it's self-care. Thank you.